Hollywood tried to fit her into the usual mold: young, pretty, marketable. But Maggie Gyllenhaal never played that game. She wasn't interested in being a starlet, a red carpet fixture, or the next tabloid obsession. She wanted something deeper, substance. From the very beginning, she chose roles that made people uncomfortable, performances that made them think. And now, decades later, she isn't just one of Hollywood's most respected actresses. She's a visionary filmmaker rewriting the rules. Maggie Gyllenhaal didn't chase fame. She chased truth. And in doing so, she became unforgettable. Maggie Gyllenhaal grew up in a family of storytellers. Her father, director Stephen Gyllenhaal, and her mother, screenwriter Naomi Foner, surrounded her with ideas, language, and films that meant something. But even with that legacy, she wasn't handed her career, she built it. While her younger brother Jake quickly rose to mainstream fame, Maggie carved a quieter, more rebellious path. She wasn't interested in being the girl next door. She wanted roles that were messy, honest, flawed, and that made her nearly impossible to typecast. Her breakout came with Secretary in 2002, a daring, provocative indie that many actresses wouldn't have touched. But Maggie didn't flinch. As Lee Holloway, she played a woman discovering her own agency through a relationship that blurred boundaries and defied expectations. It wasn't just a performance, it was a statement. She took a role that could have been sensationalized and gave it depth, humanity, and even tenderness. Critics were stunned. Audiences were divided. But one thing was clear: Maggie Gyllenhaal had arrived, and she wasn't here to play it safe. From that moment on, she refused to be predictable. In Sherry Baby, she portrayed a recovering addict struggling to reclaim her life and her daughter. In Crazy Heart, she played a single mother navigating love and disappointment. In The Honorable Woman, she took on the complexity of international politics, espionage, and trauma with the kind of grace and gravity that few actors can summon. And in every role, she brought a fierce intelligence that elevated the story. Maggie didn't just act, she inhabited her characters. Vulnerable but unbreakable. Soft-spoken but unafraid. Even when she stepped into more mainstream projects, like The Dark Knight, she brought weight and realism to roles that often existed only to support male leads. As Rachel Dawes, she wasn't just a love interest, she was a moral anchor. And though her time in the franchise was brief, she left an impact that audiences still remember. Because Maggie Gyllenhaal never played background. She brought the same level of care to every project, big or small. But acting was just one part of her voice. In 2021, Maggie stepped behind the camera with The Lost Daughter, her directorial debut. It was a bold move. Not just because it was her first film, but because of the story she chose to tell. Adapted from Elena Ferrante's novel, The Lost Daughter explored motherhood in all its contradictions: love, resentment, guilt, identity. It wasn't glossy. It wasn't comforting. It was real. And it was brilliant. Maggie's direction was precise, poetic, and fearless. The film earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay and proved what her fans had known all along: she's not just an actress. She's a storyteller. A creator. Maggie Gyllenhaal's career has never been about chasing relevance. It's been about pushing boundaries, asking hard questions, and telling stories that others are too afraid to touch. She doesn't care about being palatable. She cares about being honest. And in a town where women are too often told to smile, conform, and age quietly, Maggie refuses to shrink. She leans in, grows louder, bolder. And perhaps that's why she's endured. Because she never sold herself as a product. She sold ideas. She challenged audiences to see women as complex, contradictory, powerful. Not in a manufactured way, but in a deeply human one. She made it okay to be a little strange, a little intense, a little different. And for countless artists coming after her, that's revolutionary. Maggie Gyllenhaal was never a starlet. She never needed to be. She's an artist who speaks through her work, not her image. A performer who turned vulnerability into strength. A director who found power in silence, discomfort, and truth. She didn't follow the spotlight. She followed the story, and in doing so, she became one of the most quietly radical forces in modern cinema.